I think there's fibre in my tea. Hello and welcome to my podcast. I'm Naomi and this is NJ Knits, where I talk about my knitting. I'm introducing right away and then I'm getting myself ready to go, it seems. It has been far too long, let me just say that much. And I've been busy. I've got a marshmallow, because I love marshmallows, and I'm eating them. So, I'm very sorry about that. And I'm just going to pour myself some tea. This is blue! It's from Bird & Blend, and it's called Brighton Rock. It's kind of tea that you can only get in the Bird & Blend shop in Brighton. Every Bird & Blend shop has a special tea that's only sold in that particular shop. And this is Brighton Rock. It's got peppermint and oolong and I think it's like blue corn flour that makes it blue. I think some kind of flour. Oolong is one of my favourite kinds of tea, especially milk oolong. Okay, I think I'm ready. Let me get out my notes and just show you the notes I've made for today. That's the beginning of an F. Beginning of the letter F. I don't even know what the F was going to be for. So yeah, I was going to write notes and then I looked up my last video and I saw it was February, my last video. It's been ages, and for me that's, that's a whole month. That's not very common for me, but this is the first time I've had a moment to do a video. So I'm very happy that this time of day has light now. The sun's going down, it's beautiful. Let me take a picture and I'll put the picture up later. It will be very meta. Of us sitting here and the light and the sun. And you can see sort of what we're looking out at. But you've got all the people coming home from work on a Friday night. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. So, what happened when Finish It February finished was that I immediately did 100,000 other things, as I knew I was going to, because I was very, very looking forward to, doing a bunch of casting on. So, let me... here's one of my whip baskets. This system, by the way, has been quite effective. I've been using these and on a day-to-day basis. It's quite efficient. So let me show you where we are with the Welcome to the Jungle since the last podcast. And I can assure you that I have not worked on it since February. But I think, because I looked back at my last video, let's see if I did a podcasty thing and put a thing in. Nah, I don't think I did. Nah. Why would you do that? I don't think I did. But I'm sure that I've had more progress. I think when the video I made, I was about there. So yeah, this kept going in February, the rest of February. And I had that whole Finish It Friday idea. I don't know about that. Friday always comes and is so surprising when it comes, and then I'm not ready, I'm not prepared. So I don't know, thoughts. I do want to continue having this finish it something idea, but I think a once a week is just too sudden. I'm not ready for it. And the thing that was really worked well about February was it was in my head for months and months beforehand, and I was like, I'm going to do Finish It February, I'm going to do Finish It February. So then I was psyched up to do it by the time it came. Friday just comes way too quickly. And then sometimes you're going away on Friday, and then you're like, do I just bring Finish It projects all weekend, or do I bring a Finish It project for the Friday and then other projects for the weekend? It's a whole thing. It didn't work. I don't think I did it once since I said I was going to do it. So, great. That's great information to know. No finishing happened. Sorry, that was so quick. I was yammering on about other things, but that's my Welcome to the Jungle sweater by Petiteknit. Not Petiteknit, Popknit. It is... it's the most difficult thing I've ever done. And it's still plugging away at it. Well, not really, because I haven't touched it since February. However, what's in here? So, as soon as February was over, I went to Valencia for about 3 weeks for work, in Spain. Interesting. There's a bunch of needles in here that I wasn't fully aware of. That's where those needles are. Very good to know. This is my mud pouch that I got for Christmas from my lovely wife. I'm not sure exactly what it's meant for, but it's a very nice pouch, and I just put needles and DPNs in here, and I've got some stitch markers in here as well. These were a lovely gift from the lovely, lovely Laura from Rose Bloom Knits. She's super sweet and has some really, really lovely patterns, so check her out. She sent it to me for Christmas. I don't know if it was this year, but maybe last year. Yes, so I brought with me, as a Finish It project for the Fridays I would be in Valencia, these socks. And if you're a long-time viewer, please excuse my bright red nose. I have horrendously bad hay fever. I normally have allergies, and I differentiate allergies and hay fever because your girl is a full-on expert at allergies. I've had allergies all my life, some hardcore situations. I had a lot of people used to make fun of me because my sister's name is Moira, and I call her Moy for short. And people would be like, why are you calling your sister Boy? Because my nose was always stuffed, and I was like, Boy, come here. Anyway, so this is hay fever. This is you have like so much snot in your face that you have a little bit of a headache, and you're like just like your eyes aren't really itchy, you're just like snotting, like, and you kind of have a sore throat, but there's no feelings of illness that come with. There's no like like feeling poorly. It's just the like snot and the slightly sore throat, and sometimes like sore behind the eyes because your sinuses are blocked, but it's not like an infection, it's just like hay fever. It's crazy. Anyway, normal allergies are like itchy, and normal allergies are sorted out if I use the this like thing that like blows water up through your nose. But hay fever doesn't seem to be impacted in any way by that, because I've been doing it and it's not made a difference. So if you're wondering why my nostrils are bright red and why I sound a little bit ill, it's because I just have a lot of snot at the moment. On a side note, I had this haircut and I didn't love it at first, and now it's growing out and I'm starting to kind of like it again. Definitely need to like get it thinned out a bit, but I'm kind of liking it. Anyway, so if you're a long-term viewer, you will remember these socks, which I test knitted and proceeded to not touch the second sock for about a year and a half. I love these socks. I love the yarn. The yarn is Kremke Soul Wool Lazy Linen. So instead of nylon, it has linen to strengthen it. And I love the pattern. The pattern is called Harvest Wheat Socks. And I can't remember the name of the designer, but I'll put it down below. I put all the links to like the names of the projects I'm talking about, and I'll put the links to the designers. Oh look, there's some golden hour sunlight so you can see the pattern really well. So this is all done in like reverse stockinette with twisted rib and like travelling twisted rib in this design, and they're beautiful socks. They feel fantastic. It's a heel flap and gusset but in reverse stockinette, which is quite cool, with these lines that go down. I love this yarn. I got some more of it because I love it so much. Yeah, just Kremke Soul Wool Lazy Linen. I think it is superwash, which is probably why I like it so much, because I've recently discovered I really love superwash socks. I like how they feel on my feet. They're like slidey, slippery feeling. I enjoy that on my feet. Don't enjoy it on a jumper, but hey ho. So, because I'm very fancy, I went to an awards night. And not awards for me, don't be silly. But I was like, I need something tiny to knit. And I think it was on a Friday. Excuse me. Did I bring tissues? I think I forgot them. Oh no! Very sorry, friends. I had to go and do that the nose thing, so that's why I'm now crying. I swear by that thing. It's called, what is it called? Neil Med, I think. It's just a squirty bottle, and you squirt saline through your nose. I feel more stable now. So, I needed a tiny Finish It Friday project. I couldn't bring my giant thing because I was going to be sitting in an awards thing. So I brought this and cast it on and made the ribbing. And then I started on the pattern at another time. I think I did it in Valencia on one of the Fridays I was there. So I brought this as my Friday project. Maybe if I hadn't gone immediately to Valencia and I hadn't left my big Finish It Friday project behind, I might have kept momentum, because I was feeling some momentum for the Welcome to the Jungle. But because I was like, I'm not going to bring that big thing for 3 weeks, I'll bring a small Finish It Friday project, and I brought this one. I didn't work on it much. I worked on it like that much. So yeah, that's whip number 1, and that's my Finish It whip box gone through. Because the other thing I had on my Finish It project list Basically, the things that qualified for finish it projects were that sock, were all three things that I cast on when I was living in Prague. And if you've been around for a while, you'll know that's at least a year ago. I'm not very good at keeping track of time, but it's at least a year ago. So it's things I've cast on at least a year ago and for some reason haven't been finished. So it was the Welcome to the Jungle, the wheat socks, and the third finish it project has had some work done. And it is the honey clutch. Actually, this is really annoying because it's not quite finished. But I finally found the kit that I bought. I got a Petiteknit kit because I kept wanting... I wanted the zip to be the same as she had because I love the little dangly thing with the ball on the end and I knew it was going to be very pleasing. But I couldn't find any zips with that. So I just decided to buy the kit. You can buy a kit for these honey clutches from Knit and Living, and it had the lining pre-sewn and made, and you just chose like what pattern you wanted, and then you chose the colour of your zipper, and there was a zip which is pretty identical to the colour of my clutch. And I'm not going to turn it because it's covered in pins. It's got pins everywhere, so you'll have to wait until it's a finished object and I can show you, but I have to sew the lining in. So a very small thing, but here's the pleasing zip. Look at how pleasing that is. I found zips that were nice like this, but I didn't find them in the right length that I needed. So I thought that the kit was quite reasonable from Knit and Living. I think it was like a tenner maybe, which, like, you know, is a lot for just like a scrap of fabric and a zip, but also it's not like £30 or something. I felt it was quite reasonable, and it also made, like, finishing this project has been a strain from start to finish, and it's just not agreed with me. So when I first started it, the double knitting for the bottom of the bag, I just hated it. I hated it, and I couldn't finish it, and I felt like it was taking way too long. I spoke about, like, going for walks just to finish it, and then I started on the honey brioche, and honey brioche seems to really be made for doing back and forth, because you had to go back and forth. You couldn't do it in the round, even though the pattern was made for doing it in the round. So you just had to go back and forth, but, like, kind of cover up the seam. That doesn't really make sense, but that's fine because it's a paid pattern. You shouldn't really understand how to do it. But the point is, I hate honeycomb brioche. I just couldn't... Actually, by the end, I did memorise where I was, and I was able to just look at it and know where I was and what I needed to do. So by then, maybe I didn't hate it so much, but most of the time I was knitting this, I hated the honeycomb brioche, and then there was more double knitting at the end, but by the time I got to the end, I was just, like, so happy to be done. So yeah, so it was quite a pleasure to just not have any more stress or strain in finishing this bag. So it's so close to finished, and I would show you if I could, but I can't, so I won't. So yes, I need to finish that, and I haven't weighed... I don't think I've weighed how much it used. I used Filcolana Arwetta in the colour 270, which is like a sort of petroleum blue. Yeah, that's pretty true to colour. And then this is Ostermann, which is a German company, silk mohair. I originally bought this to go on my Gibson ruffle, but it was way too different of a colour. So instead of returning it, I bought this to make a honey clutch with together. And let me see if I wrote down in my notebook how much I have left of it. No, I didn't write it down. I need to weigh this and find out how much I have left, so I can update my stash. So that is that. So those are my 3 finish it projects, one of which is almost done, which is a big deal. So, when I was in Valencia, a couple of things. This is my finished object basket. There's a lot of finished objects in here, actually. Not gonna lie to you, but it has been like over a month. So this is, I think, the next finished object in the what's the word? Chronology. I saw this by Celine of Celine Knits on Instagram. She had this design in testing, and it was a Racerback Bralette. I'll put a picture of her version up. And I was in Barcelona, and I went to my favourite Barcelona knit shop, which is called All You Knit Is Love. For some reason, Barcelona has hundreds of knitting shops. In Valencia, not so many, not really any knitting shops. Like, there were a couple, but like just not a strong knitting game in Valencia. But Barcelona, different story. Tons of knitting shops. But my favourite one is All You Knit Is Love. The people there are lovely and cute and quirky, and the shop is lovely and has really cool things. And they do some hand dyeing themselves. And this was, I believe it's called, I can't remember what it's called. Basically where they take the yarn undyed, knit it into like a square, like a really, really loose gauge square, and then paint the square of knit fabric, and then you knit off that. And the cool thing that they did, I think there's a name for that, and it's a way to do, like, I suppose it's a way to do self-striping, to like indie dye self-striping yarn, that doesn't involve like having to, you know, stretch it all out and dye like 20 meters of a colour at a time. I don't actually know what I'm talking about. The point is, it's a different way of dyeing yarn, and it's interesting, and you can see it knit up, how it looks, but obviously it would change depending on the gauge, and depending on the gauge and how wide or narrow the thing is you're knitting, it would change what it looked like. So it's quite a cool thing to do. And it's also quite cool to like just have a bit of fabric that you're knitting off instead of like a ball of wool. You could just have this piece of fabric. It was just a different knitting experience, which I really enjoyed. I didn't have a ball of wool. I had a little bit of fabric that as it was unwinding, I was re-knitting it. And the cool thing about this one was they made this bit of fabric with the yarn held double. So it was a 400 metre skein of sock yarn, and they just pinched it in the middle and started knitting, and they knit this square of yarn with the yarn held double. So the idea was you could make perfectly matching indie dyed socks, because the 2 strands, you work 2 at a time socks with the 2 strands as you unwound it. It would be hard to make them 1 at a time, because like you'd have to like wind one strand while you knit the other. But this pattern called for 2 strands of fingering held double. So I was like, perfect. It's a DK weight pattern for a bralette, and it's called the Speedy Racerback Bralette. And here is my test. This was the yarn from All You Knit Is Love. It's your standard like sock yarn, superwash merino and mohair, not mohair, merino and nylon, and this is the bralette. It is a phenomenal pattern, and there were so much like thought and effort went into the testing process with Celine, and it's not quite over. We've got a few more days of the test, and that's great because I've got another one to block. But yeah, there are so many ways that you can personalize this to yourself. You can personalize the short rows are automatically, you have to measure and decide the short rows for yourself. Then the short rows are not attached to the size. So say you knit a size 2, there's no size 2 short rows. It's like you knit a size 2 because of your like chest. the short rows are to do with your cup, and that has nothing to do with what size you knit, really. So you have to figure out yourself. Not figure out, but you follow the pattern and you choose the short rows that work for the size of boob that you actually have. I feel like that was unnecessarily confusing. The construction is so interesting. So even if you don't want a racerback knitted bra, get this pattern just to play with the construction, because it's so interesting and it's so cool. This is not the final version of the pattern. The final version has a little bit of a different shaping here at the back, so that the back doesn't come up quite as high on the nape of the neck. And this is also, you can see that this looks slightly different up to this side, and that's fixed with some of the tips that are now written into the pattern. Because this is a I-cord, continuous I-cord, I-cord as you go, and the way that I happen to be knitting the I-cord, it was tighter on one side than on the other. So you can see this side was tight, this side was loose, this side was tight, this side was loose. So all of those things have been fixed in the final pattern. But yeah, I was actually really amazed when I tried this on how much the short rows at the bust, because I'm not very busty, and I would have thought like I don't really need short rows because I don't have much bust. But actually I was amazed at how those just even minimal short rows really, really, really made this fit so much better than it would have had it been flat. So yeah, and I love this triangular shape at the back. I think it's really, it's just really stunning. It's really cool looking. And yeah, and there's a folded hem and then elastic at the bottom. So, because of the problem with my I-cord, the bra is a little bit tight on me in like this region. So I'm actually going to give this away. But this is my finished object. I am going to like put it on again and take some more finished object photos, because I haven't taken like nice ones. I've taken a few just to show the testing group, but haven't taken like nice ones. So I'm going to do that. But then I immediately, because I'd brought some yarn with me to cast on some things, and one of the balls of yarn I brought I immediately used to cast on another one. And this one's done with just a single strand of yarn. I asked Celine if that was okay, and she said, yeah, go for it. It'll just be like not as supportive and looser and all that. And so I was like, great. And I also, because it was going to be loose and not very supportive, and because this is done top down, I wanted to use all the yarn. So I also didn't do the short rows at the cups, because I knew it wasn't going to be that supportive anyway. But I made a version with ribbing, so it's more of a bralette. It's not like a proper bra, it's just kind of like sits on you. And I actually haven't tried it on yet, so should we try it on together? I'm going to try it on, well, I don't really, let me try it on over my t-shirt. I haven't blocked it yet, whereas the other one was blocked, so it probably looks a lot nicer. And these are to show where like the top of the shoulder should be, so when I block it I can kind of like fold it at the right position. This is interesting. Celine's also done like some different arm scythe. This is your arm scythe, apparently. I learned that in this test. She's done some different options with different arm scythe depths as well, for people that aren't as long here, I guess. I think it fits pretty well, actually. Obviously it looks quite silly over a t-shirt, but it's quite cute. I mean, not silly over a t-shirt, but silly with this thing under it. But yeah, it's really cute. I think the other thing that I did was I don't think I made this bit of the pattern long enough. I think I accidentally messed up the the actual pattern, like I didn't follow it properly. So yeah, this was one of the older versions of the pattern, and it was interesting because it had so many updates that depending on how fast people knitted, they either like made versions of it that like were either more or less changed. This one also doesn't have the change at the back of the neck that I mentioned that's in the final pattern, because I again knit this before that happened. But yeah, I think this one fits really well, and I'm excited to block it and then wear it. I think it'll be a really cute piece. And I actually wear knitted bralettes quite a lot. So yeah, and I knew that like I've got a knitted bralette that I put some thin elastic in the ribbing before, and I've got another one that I don't have elastic in the ribbing. So I thought if I did the ribbing, I could put elastic in it if I wanted to, or I could leave it without. So I've got that option. Whew. So, Speedy Racerback Bralette, coming soon. Check it out, if only because it's some of the most interesting shaping I've done in a while. Now, speaking of interesting shaping, I was so impressed. I finally cast on the Friday tee, which I was looking forward to casting on when I finished Finish It February. It was kind of my treat for finishing Finish It February. I bought the yarn for this, the actual yarn that was called for. I bought it in Canada, and it's Sadness Gone Sunday. Petiteknit Sadness Gone Sunday, and I used 2 colours, a pink and a creamy white. I can't remember what they're called, but this yarn is so bouncy and elastic. I absolutely adored working with it. So I'll stop teasing you and show you the Friday tee. I finished it. I was working on it the whole time I was in Valencia. It was a cast on that I worked on the plane, and then I worked on like to and from work every day. It is almost perfect. One thing that I'm really annoyed about is I changed the beginning of round by just 3 or 4 stitches on the other sleeve, and when you look at it sort of flat like this, you can see the beginning of a round when you can't here, and I'm so annoyed about that because otherwise this would have been perfect. I love the collar is just perfection. It sits so nicely. I'll show you some photos of it, but also I'll put it on. I mean, it's the most elastic wool I've ever worked with by far. I really, really enjoy this super thick raglan situation. It looks so cool with the stripes. This pattern was really fun to make because it was you had stripes, you had broken rib, so there was always something different happening. Every row there was something different. And it's, when you were just getting tired of the broken rib, you had a new stripe to put in, and so it was really fun. But let me tell you, it took forever to knit. It was knit on 3mm needles, and yeah, it was a slog and a half. It wasn't a slog. I was happy knitting it because it was fairly mindless, but it still had the interest of stripes and stuff. So it was but it wasn't that interesting. So it was definitely it was fine. It just took a long time. It took a long time to make. So it hits right at my hip bones, which is great. Yeah, I love the colours. I love the way the neckline sits. This is not blocked, and I'm not sure if I really want to block it. I'll obviously wash it when I wear it, but I don't really see a reason to block it. Because it's nice, as is. The thing about this pattern that is an absolute stunner, and in my opinion, kind of a must knit. Well, I mean, not a must knit, but I recommend knitting this pattern. It's the Friday Tee by Petite Knit. And the reason I recommend it so highly is that the beginning of the pattern, you do short rows, and doing these short rows, you can't tell there's short rows here. If I show you like this, you can see the short rows. But they are so fun to do and so interesting, making short rows in stripes, in broken rib, without really, I mean, that's just my woven in end there, much of anything to show that you're back and forthing. I think it's genius, and I was loving it so much when I was doing these short rows. I was like, wow! Because you kind of follow it, and then you just see this uninterrupted thing happen, and you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is amazing. So yeah, I highly recommend for the purposes of short rows in stripes. Short rows in stripes are cool. Yeah. So that's my Friday tee. I'm really happy with it. Let me tell you how much yarn I used, because I wrote that down. I used 210 grams of wool, so that's very confusing. Oh, I had two colorways of white because I thought I would run out, and I think I would have. So I used a different colorway for this, and this than I did for all this. So, because I was like, I don't want it to, I know it's like cut up, but the colors did look quite different. And I think if you look at, no, I think the light's gone a bit, but you can see this is the body color and this is the like cuffs color, and you can kind of tell that they're different colors of white. So of the white, I used the 50-gram balls, so I used two 50-gram balls plus 23 grams of the body white, so 2.5 balls of the body white, and then I used 40 grams of this. So if it was all the same colorway, it would have been 3.5, basically 3.5 balls of the white. And then this pink, I used 43 grams, so just under one skein of the pink. And I have a lot left over because I started with 5 and 5. It was the whole thing, don't ask. So yeah, that's my Friday tee. And I started doing this thing in my notebook. I'll show you. Oh, I didn't do the first one in here. I started doing this like way of tracking. I don't have the Friday tee tracking, where I like drew a picture of the, it comes from the Welcome to the Jungle actually tracking, where I drew a picture of the jumper and I coloured in bits that I'd done and wrote the day, and I was really enjoying that style of tracking, so I did that for the Friday tee as well. I kind of like drew it out and I put how many stripes I needed of the body and the sleeves, and then I like coloured them in and wrote which day I finished those stripes, kind of thing. And I carried that into my March and April planning. So you can see a lot of these are filled in, which means I've finished a lot of these things. That's the Friday tee, but that was like a secondary one. I had the actual one I was doing in a different notebook. I just put it in here to, I don't know. That wasn't the main one. So the next thing I did was I cast on my cashmere that I'd taken off the jumper that I got from a charity shop. I had a small amount of cashmere because I took off the ribbing from the bottom of the jumper because it was too long. I took the ribbing off and then I made a ball of wool and I made this bandana. It is extremely random. Extrêmement. And it's probably very difficult to see all the patterns I did because the yarn is so, like, noodly. I did yarn overs for the increases, so there's yarn overs down the centre, and there's yarn overs up here as well. I did it very much modelled after the scarf number 1. I just did different like patterns. I did some eyelets sometimes, and sometimes I did like some thick ribbing or some broken rib or some garter bumps. I just kind of did whatever I felt like because I knew it would be very difficult to like see what I had done because of the dark colour and this like sort of, it's kind of a textured cashmere anyway. So yeah, I have another one of these, or Holly will steal it, as she probably will. It's very nice and soft. And I wouldn't need to wear it with my jumper because it is a roll neck jumper, but, you know, a little bit of cashmere in the life. So, let me tell you... Actually, we'll go through the stash totals later in a separate segment, I think. So that is a self-drafted, well, modelled after the scarf number 1, cashmere bandana. So next, I got back from Valencia and I had some whips that I had started before Finish It February. So I was able to come back to them, which was really exciting because they didn't have much left on them. They basically both had sleeves to do. So, one of them is finished, and that is my Circumfrence sweater. This is a pattern by Lily of Lily Kate Makes on Instagram, or Lily Kate France on Ravelry. It is a fantastic pattern. I have done the pattern in lace weight or light fingering alpaca, 100% alpaca held triple, using the same style that you would use to chain ply, but instead of chain plying, I'm knitting with it. So you basically hold the yarn triple, but you only have one cone that you're working off. So it's fairly weighty. The contrast yarns are, this mohair is a Wool in the Gang mohair. It's a very thick mohair. I can't remember what it's called. This is a hand spun by me, silk and merino blend. And this is a different hand spun by me silk and merino blend. These are like fat singles, but very thick thin. And these are chain plied, so 3 ply, and also quite thick, like probably bulky weight. These are probably like, it's meant to be worsted weight, this jumper, so yeah, they're all kind of vaguely worsted. The only differences I did was, I think I stopped, I didn't have the same gauge, so I kind of stopped, there was meant to be one more stripe before you split for sleeves, but I stopped one stripe early because I didn't want the yoke to go so low, and I didn't want the sleeves to be so wide, because there's increases between each stripe, and there was meant to be more increases and more, one more stripe, so the stripes aren't even, which is kind of sad, but I think these are so difficult to like really tell apart that you don't really notice that the stripes aren't even, because this one repeats here, this one repeats, oh no, that one doesn't repeat, this one, it's meant to go in order, but I don't think I did, because I'm a rogue. I finished this very recently. Oh look, I haven't even woven in my ends, so it's not quite finished. I finished this last weekend. We were in Brighton, and I got to wear it home on the train. And it is exactly what I was hoping for, which is so nice. It's got a nice, like, it's not like in my pit, but it's not like super low. It would go under a jacket just fine. It just looks stunning. I love this colour work. It's so simple, but it just is so effective. The collar is nice. I might put some elastic in because it does like stretch out. These sleeves though, can we talk about these sleeves? I mean, this is my ideal sleeve, where it's just like, it's not like huge, it's not tight, because I hate a tight sleeve, but I also just can't layer a loose sleeve. And also they're not as warm because there's so much air between you and the jumper. Also, just like, look at that girl scrunch. Look at her scrunch. She's scrunching all the way up to my elbow. Like, that shit is scrunchy! Scrunch-o-matic. I can, like, scrunch these up. They're just so tidy and lovely. This is in the pattern meant to be a tuck, but because this yarn is essentially already creating itself as a little bump because the yarn is so thick, it didn't need the tucking. And I did try the tuck and I was like, whoa, that's too much. So yeah, overall, I'm like, basically just chuffed to bits with this. Also, don't know if I'm going to block this, because I don't see a reason to. I will definitely weave these ends in, though. Look at those girls. Look at those girls hanging out. Girl, get yourself woven in. Get yourself woven. I did weave these ones. Generally, when I'm making a project, I weave in my ends immediately, because if I don't, I won't. And if the ends aren't woven, it doesn't get to be worn, and it has to sit in the whip basket until the ends are woven. It's just like my way of forcing myself to do it. So, look at that. That's the FO basket finished. I could put these things back in there. These two items definitely do need to block, though. So yeah, I will be. And also, I don't really consider it like finished and wearable until it goes on the podcast, because if I put it in my wardrobe, so like that Friday tease, it's totally done and ready to go, but I haven't worn it. It's been sitting in this basket because I know if I do, then I'll forget that I made it, and I'll forget to put it on the podcast, and then it'll be an undocumented item. So yeah, that's the basket of finished objects. Look at that. So many things. There's still so many things to go. I think there's fibre in my tea. You know, it'd be fun who watches podcasts and does drinking games? But sometimes people talk about that. Like, if you wanted to watch this podcast and do a drinking game, you could do a drinking game for like every time a runner goes by behind me, or every time. I mean, you'd be very drunk, wouldn't you? Or every time like a cyclist goes by behind me. You know, take your pick. You could do every time a couple walks by behind me. A pair of humans. That was 2 just then, so 3. 3 shots, guys, 3 shots, let's go. So speaking of things that I had worked on before finishing February and had waiting in the wings, the other one was my Be Thankful cardigan. All I had left on it was one sleeve, I'm really hoping this blocks out because it's a little bit loose here. All I had left on it was one sleeve, and I'm so close! I've been working on it, and like it will get finished tonight while I'm editing this, I think. So here it is for you, a little whip try on. Again, so the only thing I did here to modify this was that I didn't pick up as many stitches as you're supposed to for the arm, and I think I also didn't make this as deep as you're supposed to, because obviously I didn't want to just pick up a tiny amount of stitches in like a really deep thing, because I didn't want this to be like down here, and I think in the pattern it's quite deep. So I just tried it on and knit this until it, you know, and knit this until I felt like it was a good depth, and this is a pretty good depth. That's my pit, that's this, that's as far away as this as I really want it to be. I don't want it to be like further than that. Again, for jacketing purposes. It has this really lovely detail down the bottom. It has this lovely ribbing which like cinches in so nicely. And it's gonna just block beautifully. I can't wait to block this, because this is the kind of yarn that you can feel is gonna just like look so much better once it's blocked. This is a Briggs & Little country roving, no, Briggs & Little heritage worsted, which is very, very, very affordable yarn. It's £8 a ball, $8 Canadian. Very affordable, and this is like marled, which is really beautiful. And I think a lot of it is marled. So yeah, I've got some buttons that I got on my honeymoon in Finland, made of wood. I think it's wood. It's not reindeer antler, I don't think. I think it's wood. So I'm gonna put those on when I block it. I will not ever be blocking something with buttons on ever again. So here it is. It does have shaping here. It's a little bit of like bomber jacket-y vibes. It's a dropped shoulder, obviously. It's got this lovely shoulder detail along here. And yeah, the button band is knitted on, so I did that already because I kind of thought that might be a slog and it'll break up the two sleeves. So I did one sleeve, button band, and then I'm doing the other sleeve, and it's going to be done very soon. And I'm really looking forward to it. And this made me realise that actually my other jumper that's knit in Briggs & Little has yet to be washed. And that's my another Lily Kate pattern. It's the Love Number sweater. I never washed it and blocked it. Can't remember why. But I was thinking, you know, it might actually get a little bit more drape, which actually might be nice on that jumper. But yeah, this is definitely going to like soften up and just look so much better with blocking. I'm so excited. You know, and you can just tell, you're like, this is going to look so much better when it's blocked. So that's that whip. I started a new pair of socks for Holly, and I cast on pretty immediately with the beautiful, how many times can I say beautiful wool that the lovely Kate sent me from all the way from Australia. Oh no, I've lost some stitches. One moment please, caller. This is the yarn. This is a bag that you get when you fly business class sometimes. You get these like little toiletries bags filled with stuff. And it's actually quite a good like yarn cake holder. It's a good like kind of keeps it in place while you pull stuff out of it. But this is the yarn. It's gorgeous. It's hedgehog fibers, and I think the colorway is something night related, I think. Anyways, I cast on the Coffee Talk socks from my 52 weeks of socks. From my 52 weeks of socks book. Oh, I'm gonna have to stop soon. This is like rough. I can't lie. It's the first pair I've made out of that book. I've had it for so long, since Christmas, and I've not made any. Anyway, Coffee Talk socks, and they are for Holly, and I had to rip them back because I made them too short, and I'm glad I did, because you know, they'll fit her now. They were going to be mine because I was like, I kind of want to rip back, but then I decided actually no, I do want to rip back and make them nice for Holly. So they are Holly size now, nice and long, and they look really funny. They have reverse stockinette on the bottom, which I'm really jealous of. I want a pair of socks with reverse stockinette on the bottom. And they have this really cool slip stitch pattern, which is kind of similar to honeycomb brioche in a way. It took me a while to get the hang of it, but once I did, I think... What's happening? I mean, whether or not I remember how the hang was that I got is a different question. Oh, I think I do, yeah. You just... It is essentially like half fisherman's brioche, I guess. I'll call it half fisherman's brioche. Anyways, it took me a while to get the stitch pattern right. You can see here it's kind of messed up. It's meant to be this nice, even, like, almost seed stitchy looking thing. But this yarn has been giving me so much joy to work with. I just find it so beautiful. It's so beautiful. The browns and the purples with this like steel grey. It's just like whenever I work with it, I'm just the whole time just marveling like, wow, this is so beautiful. And actually, my sock mojo's been pretty flat lately, and this yarn might just bring back my sock mojo, even though the more I knit socks, the more I discover I really don't enjoy that much making like super patterny socks. I tend to always stall on them. I just love it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So I'm not annoyed that I'm sort of taking it a while, and I haven't knit on these since Valencia basically. It's been some time. But yeah, I got distracted by the bralettes basically in Valencia, and I did those as well as the Friday tea, and that was pretty much it. There's one more whip to show you. And it's another test knit. It's a test knit for Jennifer Brow, and the pattern is called the Franklin Park Tea. Even though it doesn't have sleeves. I've finished the front. It's an intarsia pattern, and it is front and back, and then you join, and then you do the neckline. So here is the front. Do you like that? Do you like what I did there? Got it on little cords. So this is what it looks like. I saw this and I was like, I love it! And I also knew that I had this yarn in my stash, and it's very kind of similar to how the designer's version looks, and I was like, oh, I need this. So I was very, very honoured to be chosen for the test knit, and I am knitting it in Malabrigo yarn, and so the pattern can be done to have two different things for the side. It can be seamed up partially and then be like really wide and open, or it can be a smock and you can do ties that then tie it. I'm considering asking the designer if I can do ties but actually just sew them to each other, as I think that might be quite cool, like 2 sets of ties instead of 1, and instead of them tying on the sides, just have them connect to each other, as I think that would be quite cool. This is a very like, it's designed like with inspiration from like gardens, like, yeah, it's very architectural, I think, this pattern, and it's wonderful. I'm so happy that I found something for this yarn and it works so well. Obviously though, I'm playing Yarn Chicken, so the other side I've started on, this is Malabrigo Lace Merino singles in the colour Arcoiris and Lettuce. Arcoiris means rainbow in Spanish. So the other side, because I'm playing Yarn Chicken, I very briefly considered playing like Major Yarn Chicken, but I decided not to. The other side is, and I'm in the middle of a row, so it'll be hard to show you. It's also just like a complete and utter shit show all the time, because it's Intarsia, and I don't know how to not be a shit show, basically. The other side is opposite! So I'm just getting started on it. It does have shaping, so the two sides are different. So this will be the front, and this will be the back. So yeah, it's, so far I'm really enjoying the pattern. I'm really enjoying the yarn, and it's so soft. It's just so soft. Singles are just so soft. If you've never knit with singles, consider it, because they're very soft and it's very nice. One of my favourite and most warm pair of socks are knit with, I think it's even Malabrigo singles, like fingering weight singles, and they're just so nice. So I'm just trying to finish up this row really quickly so I can show you. It's my first Intarsia project. I've never knit Intarsia before. Yeah, it's going really well. There were a few things that I didn't realise about Intarsia, like I sort of imagined it sort of visually, that like each separate, like I imagined it like you would imagine Microsoft Paint working when you do the like, when you do the paint bucket function, where you like, you know, any other 90s babies out there, you know, you have the like paint thing and you click the paint thing and you click the paint bucket in an area, it fills anything that's like not blocked off from that area. That's kind of how I imagined Intarsia working, where like any section that like isn't blocked from side to side is done with a different ball of yarn. However, it's more subtle than that. So I made a couple mistakes. Sorry, my nose is running now. I've just got 4 more stitches! Okay, let me show you. So I kind of imagined that obviously this would be a ball of yarn, 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 and this would be a ball of yarn, and this would be a ball of yarn, and then this is a ball of yarn, and that's a ball of yarn. Which is correct. However, there are times when you're knitting on this, and you're going to here, with, you know, you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then you go to here, and this strand for this guy is sitting here, and you get to here and you don't have a strand to start this bit. So actually it's not like the paint function where like if you can fill it in with one, it's one. It's more like if it's, I don't know, if it's one direction, then it's I don't know. Basically I needed to cut the yarn here and start a new intarsia ball here to do this one. But what I did was I carried the yarn behind it, which you're technically not really supposed to do. So this is the weaving in, but here you can see how I've carried this. Can you see? I don't know. Where did I do it? Oh, there it is. I think it's there. I carried the yarn. Look, I don't know. I was carrying yarn at some point when I wasn't supposed to. But, yeah. And now I have a fantastic beard. I feel a little bit like someone in medieval times. Just with bigger hair. So yeah, this is the Franklin Park tee. I'm test knitting it. The test date that it's due is my birthday, May 29th. So that's fun. And yeah. Here is I finished the row, so this is the back with the, oh sorry, that's the wrong side, right side. Here's the back, and it's cool to see like the arco-iris slightly looking different in these smaller bits, you know, and I think it's a great combo because like this is hand dyed, so it's slightly variegated but not very much, and that goes really well with this one being a little bit more variegated, I think. And I just love these colours together. It's very 90s, it's very fun. And I think it's quite cool how this could have gone much more poorly with the colours, because essentially like you've got such different spaces that you're filling with this variegated yarn, and it could have been like thin stripes, thick stripes, and it somehow sort of all blends together and looks like it's one thing. You know what I mean? Because like these are a little bit thicker, to be fair, than that. You know, this little dark patch is thicker than that bit, but it blends nicely, and it's not super obvious that like you've got a bunch of different sized inactions of this colour changing stuff. If that made sense to you, I congratulate you. I give you an award. I'm really flagging. I'd also like to say that this morning, if you watch my last video, you know that I have about an hour and a half commute, more or less, give or take. And this morning, the start of my commute, I sat down in the tube, and I do sometimes bring backup projects for commuting. I know that's completely insane, but sometimes I do. However, in this case, I did not, and sat down, got out my needles to, you know, carry on working on this, and that guy was broken. It had broken here, so that's the join there, and it had just broken here. That's the join, that's where it broke. Just where the needle connects to its metal bit. But I had in my knitting pouch a elastic band, and I have them as needle stoppers. I keep one as a needle stopper when I need to. I can like just elastic band the two tips together. I heard someone who mentioned that idea came from Andrea Mowry. So I credit Andrea Mowry for this idea, but I didn't get it from her. I got it from someone else who got it from her. Who cares? It's fine. It's an elastic band. But I had it, and so I put it on the back of my needle, and this is such thin singles that it can squeeze to the size of a needle. It doesn't stay on the needle very well, but it's workable. And that's what I did for my 3 hours of commuting today, because, you know, desperate times. So I just say, you know, keep a yarn, keep your... I'm gonna have to like stop and just like give you a stash update later. I think this is too much for me. Good grief. Let me pause. The point is, you know, keep an emergency go bag just in case the worst happens. You heard it here first. I don't know what I'm saying. Let me take a break. We still have light, so I'm soldering on. There's not much more to go, but this weekend I have some acquisitions, and also the section on my stash count, because we all want to hear about that, don't we? So I got some acquisitions this weekend, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about how that's going with my stash count. We were in Brighton and we went to Yak Yarn and Knitting in Brighton, in the lanes, because, you know, it's there. Pop in, have a look around. Oh, they're tuning in. Nice. Anyway, I saw this ball of wool that looked really, really cool, and Holly bought it for me because she's lovely and she likes to encourage and enable me. So she bought it for me. It is so cool. It's called Footprints by Wool Addict. The colours are a little less brilliant, as the sun is more or less gone down now. But it's fairly true. If you imagine this like slightly more vibrant, this is what it is. It just looks so cool. And I think I want to try and make... I mean, it would make beautiful socks. The makeup of the wool is 45% cotton, 42% virgin wool, and 13% nylon. And it is superwash. So it would make some nice like summer socks. You're very close. It's just a little bit faded. Just a tiny bit faded. It would make some lovely summer socks, but I kind of want to try and make a ripple crop top by Jessie Maid with this. It's 100 grams, 400 meters, and that is the colorway is 1115, I believe. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So it's really cool and I really like it. And then we went to some charity shops, as we always do because we love charity shops, and I found a bunch of Rowan Summerlight for £1 a ball. Now, sometimes in charity shops they put wool as like £3 a ball, sometimes £2.50 a ball, and it's a bit like, okay, I mean, yeah, sometimes if it's like drops, that's more expensive than it actually is if you just order it from Wool Warehouse. But anyway, this was £1 a ball, which is a really good deal, and I'd been kind of eyeing up the Summer Light because it's a really soft cotton, and I do enjoy cotton. So your girl got 10 balls of it. This is my selection of cotton. This is some beaches and bushes underneath. It's the top layer, please, folks. Top layer only. There we go. That's a good view. Most of it is DK, but there are 3 balls of fingering. I believe it's these ones. 1, 2, and... No, that's the DK. 1, 2, and... Is it the cream? Yes, they're the cream. 1, 2, and 3. So, these are pretty true to colour. This is Rowan Summerlight 4-ply. And I think I'm planning to make a Jacqueline C. Slack tank that has intarsia with these. Because, yeah, just like a cotton tank. I think it has the right... I have the right amount of wool for it, and it's meant to be in fingering weight, and it'd be cute. It'd be a very Valentine's-y sort of a look. So that's those 3. And then it's a struggle, folks. It's a real struggle. This hay fever is killing me. I've got Summerlight DK, and this is the other one was 50 grams, and it was where is it? What does it say? Oh, so this 4-ply, it's 100% Egyptian cotton, and it's very, very soft. I think this usually goes for about 6 or 7 pounds a ball normally. So yeah, this is 175 meters for the 4-ply for 50 grams. And then obviously cotton is usually less meterage for the grams because cotton weighs more than wool does. So if you keep the grams the same, the meterage is less. If you keep the meterage the same, you would end up with heavier balls of wool, you know? Because normally 4-ply, for 50 grams, you get about 200 meters, and this is 175. If you had 200 meters of this, it would end up weighing more. I don't know why I'm explaining how that works. Never mind. Ignore me, please. So this is DK, and it is 130 meters, I believe I said. Yeah, 130 meters per 50 grams. So there's 3 balls of this white, 2 balls of this sort of dusty pink, and then a ball each of this more of a raspberry colour, and then this sort of greenish colour. And I'm really excited. This is going to be my next cast on, for sure, because I'm going to make, I don't remember what it's called, the streamers? It's summer of last year Pom Pom magazine, and it's James N. Watts pattern, and it's basically a vertical stripe jumper. So honestly, the amount of cutting out, blowing my nose I'm gonna have to do, I'll count it for you and I'll put the number here. I don't know what else I can do, folks. I've had an allergy tablet. I've done the nose thing twice today. It's just... okay, so let me show you this again, the palette, and I'll show you the pattern. Here's the palette. It's going to be a stripy, summery extravaganza. And I guess I'm going to have to do... What I was thinking, actually, was to do the cuffs and the neck and the cuffs and the ribbing and the neck in this colour. and then have this be the stripes. White in between every other stripe of this and this. So like white, raspberry, white, this, white, raspberry, white, this. I might need to add in this, but I don't know if that would be enough. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts on how I should organise the stripes on this. But they're pretty thick. And yeah, the palette is actually slightly similar to the pattern, as it's sort of got like a little bit of green and some whites, and I think the difference is that there's no white, like bright white in it. But I'm really excited. I really want like a long sleeve summer jumper that I can put on, because I have a couple summer jumpers that I've made, but they're not long sleeve, and I actually, after making all those like 3/4 sleeve jumpers, I quite like a long sleeve one. So that's that. So yeah, £10, and I got 2 jumpers worth of summer, well, 2 garments worth of stuff. And then, hilariously, that was actually cheaper than this one ball of sock yarn from the shop. But that's fine. That's how it works. Now, for stash. The thing you've been waiting for. I don't know if you have or not. So like this, I've been being lazy and not doing it with colours, which is kind of more boring, because it's nicer to see like the different colours of like when I did different things. So like, I just coloured it in a colour and then put a number to show like what date in March I did it. But when I got back from Valencia, I just kind of filled stuff in, because like, I don't know, that had all just been done, you know. I finished this right at the end of my trip to Valencia, and that was like done all the way, you know, kind of thing. So anyway, I've been doing it just in black, so like saying the number, when I did it, what date I did it. And I need to fill this in, because this is my Franklin Park tank, and I finished the front, so, and that was yesterday I think I did it, so the 27th. I guess you could kind of see based on like when the squiggles are. Squiggle is that day, that squiggle's that day, that squiggle's that day. But it's prettier with the colours, I think. So for next month I'll do the colours. My April plans were here. I've got second sleeve on Be Thankful, almost done. And I will finish that before the end of April, because I'll finish it tonight, hopefully. Finish bralette, done. Cast off circumference, finish the 2 sleeves, yeah, done. Cast off the body, finish the sleeves. Work on the wheat sock, not even remotely done. Work on the neckerchief, finished. Work on the test knit, that will probably be finished, but not in April. Anyway, let me tell you my update. So, stash count. So, when I last saw you on the 15th of Feb, I had 243 balls of wool. And then I have used 2 whole balls on my Be Thankful. This is my last ball of 5. Or is it 6? So 2 balls of... So there was 1 ball of that, first finished. Then I finished a ball of the Sadness Gone Sunday. And then another ball of the Sadness Gone Sunday when I was working on my Friday tea. Then in Barcelona, and actually this is funny because I added a ball, but then I used every single scrap of that ball of wool to make this. So there wasn't any leftover yarn, which was so satisfying, I have to say. So this is great. It will use up 1 full ball of sock yarn if you hold it double. So there was, the Briggs and Little, a ball of Sunday, another ball of Sunday. Then I added, I added a ball and then I took away a ball, so that it's like net 0. Then I used up the whole ball of this. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned, this is knit in Co-op Knits Socks Yeah, which I had intended to make socks with, but it's now a bralette. And I used all of the ball of wool. It was just a 50-gram ball, and since I held it single, it was enough to make this. And I just kept knitting, ribbing until it was finished, till the ball was finished. So yeah, this is Socks Yeah, and I think the colour is Obsidian. It's a really lovely colour. I really like it. You're not going to really be able to see the details, but it's got subtle variation. So yeah, that took us down from 243 to 239. Then I finished this ball of wool. I used all the ball of wool in that. So that's another ball. And then I finished one of my cones of the navy alpaca for this. So that was one ball down. As I say, like, balls are so different, because this was one ball and then 1,000 meters of navy alpaca was one ball. Anyway, so that takes us down to 237. So in 1 month I went from 243 to 237 on the 15th of April. Then on the 22nd, that's when I acquired 10 balls of cotton and 1 ball of sock yarn. So that is 248. Yeah, 248, which is more than I started with. But wait, it's okay. I gave away 10 balls of Drops Paris, which I had bought to make Holly a vest that she no longer wants, and I don't really want the yarn for anything else. So I gave it to a wonderful viewer named Emma, and yeah, I asked on Instagram if anyone wanted it. She said she did, so that's really cool. It's just arrived to her yesterday, I think. So that's 10 balls down. Then when I finished this, I've made 3 jumpers out of this navy alpaca, and I was done with it. So I just took the rest of that last cone of wool to the charity shop. So that's another one down. Another one bites the dust. So the 10 balls going off to Emma and the 1 ball going to the charity shop negates the 10 and the 1 that I got from Brighton. And then so we're back to 238, basically. Back to 237. Which is where we were before I bought all the wool. Back to 237, and then I used another ball of this. Brings a little worsted. And that. And then I have 1 ball of wool, which I'm going to give away to. It's going to go into the actually probably go to my sister for her birthday. It's a ball of wool that every time I see it I just don't love it, and I got it in a Goodwill haul from Canada, the one with all the delicious hand-dyed wonderful yarn. And so I'm going to give it to my sister. I've just made a mess. I don't know why I don't love it when I see it. I just don't. It's string theory, colourwork, continuum, 80% merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. Sock yarn. It's very soft, and it's self-striping, and the colourway is Enterprise. It does, stripes, big, nice thick stripes, basically. So I'm going to give that to my sister for her birthday in July. So that is 1 more ball of wool gone. And I think I did that to kind of offset the fact that I bought a ball of wool and then knit it up. basically, I kind of want every time I knit something to have an impact on my stash. And so if I buy something, that's fine. I generally just find stuff that I don't like as much anymore, or don't want to use, and get rid of it. And it's not really, for some reason in my head, it's not a one in, one out. Because for some reason, if I think that, I'm going to get stressed and then not do it. It's just kind of like oh, it's fun watching it go down every time I knit a ball, and I want it to keep doing that. And so I'm just kind of making it so that I can get it to keep doing that, and I can see the progress continuing rather than doing this. Like, even if it's continuing slowly, and it'll get slower and slower as I like give away things that are like smaller balls of wool and then replace them with like full balls of wool. But anyway, that is the thing. So yeah, I'm having a really nice time with my stash total. So that takes us to a final total, if we count this as like, it's now in a gift pile, so it's not in my stash, which I think is fine. It brings us a total of 235 balls of wool. So that's only 35 more balls that I have to knit before I'm allowed to get myself a present. Yay! Anyway, thank you so much for soldiering through this. I'm going to take another little picture and I'll put it at the end here so you can see, you know, what's happening on the river. See my view at the end of the day. Yeah. Thanks so much for soldiering through this video. It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle for me. It's probably been a struggle for you. I was gonna edit this, but I'm sort of feeling like I'm exhausted. And I might just have a bath instead. Thank you very much for being here, for clicking on the video, for watching it, for giving it a little thumbs up, or subscribing to my channel. It's really nice. It makes me feel nice when people do that. And that's all. It just makes me feel nice. I love it when people comment. I love to hear what you have to say, what bits made you go, yeah, I see that. I see you there. What bits made you laugh, what bits made you cry, what bits made you turn the computer off. I'm gonna stop chatting shit now, and I will go downstairs and run a bath. Thank you so much. I hope you are well, and I hope you are feeling a little bit better, maybe, than I'm feeling right now. Yes. And I hope that wherever you are in the world, you don't have too bad of hay fever, because it can be rough. Alright, goodbye for now. See you later.